Oh, hello, and wait, is that thing still on? Don't want to see that yet. There we go. Alright, finally we're here. The end of the Scab Captain build. This episode we're going to cover paint, and then finally putting everything together. So, let's get started. Before paint, I needed to seal all the armor. Just like with my previous weapons, and all my previous projects, just use some quick seal, some rubber gloves, and a cup of water. My main goal was to get any seams in the foam, imperfections, and whatnot. I wasn't focused on making it super clean and perfect, because these guys' armor is already pretty tattered and beaten up, so I just wanted to make sure I covered up any of my imperfections that I could. I did the same thing with the skulls as well, paying close attention to the carvings to help smooth out those indentations. Alright, so it is the next day, which is paint day. It's going to be off and on rain outside, supposedly. But before I can take this out to paint, I now need to cover up these straps. Reason I'm doing that, obviously I don't want to get paint on it, but the reason I did these first, one, at the time I needed something to do, and two, I needed something to hang this stuff from when I get it painted. Yeah, so it kind of sucks, but otherwise I wouldn't have had a way to hang it up. So now this is what we're doing. If you have noticed, I said to use painter's tape for literally everything. Main reason is because it's easy to work with. Normally doesn't take paint off for obvious reasons. It's painter's tape. Still holds well enough to do what it's supposed to, just hold stuff, or cover things, I guess you could say. Always make sure you fold the very end. That makes it easier to take off later. I'm not too worried about this part here because that's never going to be seen. That's going to be up against me. Might make it a little bit uncomfortable, but whatever. Help it more. Alright, well, that's one down, now to do the rest. All right, let's take this outside and paint it. All right, so the rain finally let up and everything, so we're finally back out here painting, or we are out here painting, I guess. I am using Plasti Dip. This is your cosplayer's go-to thing. If you have followed any cosplayers or cosplay yourself, you're very well aware of this stuff. It's rubberized paint. It's unfortunately, this ends up being the most expensive part. There's a train. This ends up becoming the most expensive part of your build. These things are almost hitting 10 bucks a can now. They used to be like 7 bucks or so. Now they're, I think, about like $8.50 to $9 a pop. Fortunately, one can lasted me these 3 pieces: the helmet and the 2 pauldrons. I'm definitely gonna give the helmet one more coat, but the pauldrons seem fine for now. I'll have to wait till they dry. Now we have a plane. Yeah, I'm gonna give them a try, or let them dry, see how they are. It is sprinkling out right now. Normally I'd be like, ah, crap, I'm gonna bring it back in. That's the most it's gonna do now, is sprinkle. And again, considering the nature of this character, that little bit of a bubbly texture that I might get from some rain on the plasti dip just adds character. So I'm okay with that. And I finished the rest of the armor, priming every piece until the sun went down. Once everything was done, I brought it all inside and started removing my painter's tape. Okay, I let this stuff sit for a while. As you can see, it's got a very uneven texture. I laid down the plasti dip by way more than I should have, but I don't care. So let's see. First things first, I'm gonna have to give this a coat of some kind of black. What I could have done was, after it dried, take some black spray paint of whatever, preferably something matte and not glossy, and cover the whole thing. I could have done that if I had the paint and the time, which I did not. I barely got all this done before the sun came down. No, actually, I was still painting while the sun was down. So I'm gonna use something. I have this watery black gloss stuff. It's like a metallic paint. It's what I normally use for like my dry brush highlights. I'm gonna use that first. Hopefully that'll kind of dull all this down. We'll see what happens. If I don't like it, I'll grab another piece. That's the whole reason I'm kind of doing these small pieces first. The boot covers specifically, and the knee covers next. Because they are so small and consequential, and no one's gonna notice them as much as they will anything else. So if I do mess these up, I'll just grab another paint, start over. If it's a slightly different shade, different color, no one's really gonna notice. I mean, you might, but you're gonna be looking at everything up here first rather than down at my feet. So that's the current plan. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the base coat turned out okay. At the very least, it got rid of all the unevenness of everything, and now it's at least one solid color. So that's a win, I guess. And up next, I'm gonna have to make a store run eventually, probably for this part, but I'll be dry brushing every piece of armor with this metallic silver. Unfortunately, the one I like to use, hi Sable, stop scratching my chair. is a gunmetal gray, which no one seems to sell anymore, and I don't have much left. So what I have left then is sterling silver. So save all. Yeah. So scratching on my chair for attention. Why don't you just get in my lap? So that's what I'll be trying to do, at least. Hopefully it's not super brighter than the metallic, but I doubt it. At the very least, the sterling silver, Walmart has a crap ton of. So, what, you want to help out? No? Oh, guess you just wanted attention. Every piece got a quick coat of metallic silver. I left very little on my brush, doing quick brush strokes to lay it on light, and to only get the high points. And from time to time, I also gave the pieces a random stroke of heavy paint, just to give the impression of scratches and rub marks on the armor. Once that was all done, it came time to start mocking up the color. I started with the helmet first, using some blue painter's tape to mark off spacings for the yellow lines on the side. And once that was good, I filled in with some yellow paint. While I still had my yellow paint out, I then moved on to my pauldrons, which used the same exact color. This had a checkerboard pattern, which I taped out. This took a while to get right because of the curve of the plating and all the spikes in the way. But eventually I got it and laid down my paint. I started with black first this time, and used a sponge brush in hopes of giving the paint a chipped and worn look. I then retaped the helmet to put down the black for that as well. And after that, I went back to the pauldrons, finished it off with the yellow. And to finish off the helmet, I painted the chaos arrows on the side with a light tan, and then the leather straps around the back with a brown. From there, I started painting the skulls. I started with a splotchy base coat of red. This wasn't meant to hit every spot, just in places that would have some kind of a blood stain, like around the carvings. So I think I talked about this process once before, probably about a year ago, back when I made the data interrogator from Darktide. Just like these, I started I did the whole thing in black, similar process to the armor as well. And then I worked my way up in layers from the darkest colors to the lightest colors, and then each time I go lighter and lighter, I touch less and less of a surface. You can kind of see in the cracks how it kind of, fills in all that. Obviously, there's no cracks in here because I covered the entire thing in foam clay and I didn't etch any of that out. Probably should have, but I don't care. Because the whole reason I don't care, you probably can't make out the images I have in my reference, but the skulls look almost like they're freshly deskinned. So there is a little bit of like blood left over on them. So instead of starting out with a dark brown, I'm starting out with a red. That way I can fill in the gaps in all the carvings I have in the head. Yeah. And then as I go up, I'm gonna try and miss some of those spots and keep up some of the lighter browns in other areas. And then when I'm done, I'm probably gonna take a sponge and kind of hit a couple spots with the red again, and then help bring that right back out. Is it gonna work? I don't know. I think it will, but we'll find out. I mean, as they say, trust the process. And I did just that. I worked up in layers, starting from the darkest colors first, working my way out to the surface with lighter and lighter colors, all the way until I hit bone tan. Okay, so I'm insanely happy with how these are turning out. They say trust the process. Yeah, definitely, you have to trust it, because I definitely don't trust myself. With each step I was taking, I was getting more and more scared how this is going to turn out. The last one I just did, which was the very light tan color, this one, I was hesitant to even do it because I was like, this is looking pretty good. I should stop here. I'm like, no, I need to go one more just for the highlights. And you don't notice it, but it's there and it helps. But now I want to go one more step, and I am trying to go against my, whatever you want to call it, that's telling me not to. But I want to go back to red. Now, instead of doing the dry brushing technique that I was doing, what I want to do this time is take a sponge. So if I can kind of show some of these that I had used previously for when I was painting the armor. If you can see, these dry brushes, normally they're nice and flat, but I took some scissors to them and cut the crap out of them. This gives you an uneven splotchiness when you go to actually use them. That's what I want to do. I want to take a couple of them, really cut them up, and then probably water the red down real good so that it's almost like a stain, and then just tap it in spots. Mostly, I in spots around, it's going to be more of an artistic guess, I guess, really, because if I go too much around these markings, it could drown it out, and then you can't see it. One of the reasons I'm going to water it down, that way it's kind of faded, and I might do that in layers. But I might just pick in patches, because if you look, which you can't see, just like, it could also just be shading, but whatever. There's like spots, like maybe like right here in the forehead that's very red, and then it's bone, and then like back somewhere else it's a little bit red. So I'm gonna try and do that, because like I said, I like the idea that they look almost like they're freshly de-skinned, ish, kind of. So it could be that, or it could just be his blood or someone else's blood on it. But either way, I like the idea of splattering blood. Now that I think about it, though, I could do that with the rest of the armor too, if I have time. But yeah, that's gonna be the attempt. I'll do it insanely watered down first. That way, if I don't like it, it's not that noticeable. But if I do like it, then I'll go one step more and do a second layer, maybe with less water, you know what I mean? Darken it up a little bit and then just kind of have that splotch. So fingers crossed, let's hope I don't ruin it. So I chopped up a sponge brush and watered down some of my red paint, a lot, and then just started dabbing spots here and there. I gave this a few passes, and once I was happy with what I had, I chopped my sponge brush up one last time and gave it one more pass with a less watered down red to create some dried blood spots. Okay, this was actually a pretty good decision. It's pretty hard to tell until I bring it up close, but it worked out pretty good. I mean, paint's still drying, so it's going to dull out a little bit once it actually dries. But, so what you probably can't tell from the camera, at least I hope you can. So the first pass of the red I did very wet, and I kind of like really patched it on. Once it dried, it was almost like a red stain in certain spots. So then I went again with a little bit less water, and then I chopped the sponge brush up more. That way it's more sporadic rather than splotchy. So just tiny bits here and there. I just dabbed it and then just stayed within the red stain. And that gave it like this really neat, like, I don't know how to describe it, but I like it. This looks fucking cool. Yeah. All right. I don't know what I'm doing next. We'll find out. Up next, I repeated the process one more time with the skull and the pauldron. This was the exact same thing, with a splotchy base of red, and then moving up closer to tan. And then finishing it off with a red bloodstain, but this time paying extra attention to the impaled openings in the skull. And from there, I finished off painting the last few things, like the skull pins for the cape, and the checkerboard pattern on the right boot toe. And with all the armor painted, it came time to finally start working on getting it all to fit together. Okay, so up next, I need to work on the suspenders for the belt. Well, the suspenders are already made, but I need to find out the lengths for them for the body piece. Okay, now that this is in, I have, whoops, turn that back down. one piece in the back. Remember a while back I talked about the suspenders for this. This one has two in the front, one in the back center. I found that through taking an absolute ton of screenshots from in-game fighting this enemy. That's about where I want it. Reach around back. Velcro is already engaged, so we are attached in the back. And now I have these two pieces here. They're going to go up. Now I have to figure out how I will hook this up. Okay, so it looks like it can actually go the whole way up here and mount to the shoulder piece. Okay, there we go. So we should have both of these marked up to that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll cut the tips off of these, take them back over. I'll probably, hey, what are you doing? Add some nylon straps so I have something to mount into, glue, and all that stuff. What do you have? Okay, she just has a, what she has is not bad. She has, don't, Sable, I only have one of them. Don't take that freaking thread roller and just run away with it. Ah, cats. Okay, back to work. So, I did just that. I trimmed the ends and took the belt over to my sewing station to sew on some nylon straps. Okay, so now that I marked up where I want my suspenders to kind of stop and had them all sewn up, now I need to cut out holes in the chest piece for it. If you see here, I already have holes for where I originally wanted it because I thought I needed some extra, I don't know. I'm stupid and I don't know if I'll fill that back in. Probably not, because with all the random attachments we have on the inside, it's not going to hurt anything. I could probably just fill it in with hot glue if I wanted to. But anyway, I have an extra piece of the suspenders that I had cut out. This was left over from when I did all the strips beforehand. So I'm going to use it and kind of get an idea of how long this new cut is going to end up being. Do the same thing, I'll cut it straight along the underside of this shoulder strap. And I don't need a whole lot, I need just enough for the thread to get through. Alright, I'm just going to go poke through and it should be able to come right out. Okay, there we go. And we have our brand new hole at the very top, which you can't see because it's in a shadow. Just good. Now we do that to the other side. Sable, are you cutting stuff too? Are you cutting up my chair? Is this your way of crafting, or is this your way of getting my attention? Okay. Hey Sable, what are you doing? Now you're trying to knock over the camera stand? Why are you so bad today? Okay, well, with those, that means that I can start gluing this all in place. Probably the easiest way to do this would be on the table. Run it through, line up my marker markings, and then just glue the inside on the back, run it through, slap it on. Should be the most effective way to do it. Yeah. Oh, there is one more thing I did not think of that I forgot about, which I am going to have to think about now. I could probably also do it after I have glued it, but whatever, you're here. So, see on this side there's actually two holes. Well, it's three now, but originally there was two. Yeah, we still have this one here on the bottom. That is for the clip for the cape. So I'm gonna have to make sure that that is still there, or still accessible. So once I put this in, like that there, I need to mark out where that is so I can cut that out and then sew around it. Any old mark will do. Okay. All right, so I'll cut that out. So around it, kind of make sure it doesn't rip anywhere. And then I'll glue all this in place. I cut that line out and sewed around it like I had said. And then brought it back over to my main table and used my hot glue gun to glue the suspenders onto the chest from the inside. Once those were all glued in, I then did the same thing with the gray chest strap. Alright, so up next, I can still do a couple things, but I think what I'm going to do, actually I should really just try this on before I do anything else, because I'm gonna hate myself if I don't, if I start messing things up. But what I'll be doing next afterwards, which depends if I do or do not test anything on, there's several accessories on the belt here. Mostly. I mean, there's a couple pouches which I have made. These right here. They need not fine-tuned, they need finished up. Just a little piece of Velcro so they can close and stay closed. And then I have these cool skulls that I made. They are going to go on a strap that goes around the hip here. I should probably take into consideration as well that on this same hip is this sword, which I cannot really mount unless this thing goes up higher, but I think this is as high as this thing goes. No, I think this does go higher. But anyway, I'll need to make some kind of mount for this so it can stay at my hip, because I really don't want to walk around all day two-handing this and then the gun in my other hand. I mean, it'd be fun for photos and stuff, but at the same time, I want to be able to put it down and sheath it. Not entirely sure how I'll do that yet. I'm thinking some kind of loop thing. I'm going to do some research because from all the in-game screenshots I've seen, I have not seen how this actually looks mounted to his side. So, but it's got to be attached to the hip somehow. So there's that. And then our collection of skulls, which there will be 3 in total. And these little hooks, I'll have a strip run through them. That's it. But that is our current predicament setup. I don't know. My next bit of problems I'm going to have to deal with. I already see the sun coming up and I don't want to go to bed. I told myself I was going to try and get this done tonight. Freaking belt. Alright, less rambling, more working. So I gave everything a test fit and mocked up the strap with the skulls. And I'm glad I did this, because this was when I noticed that this wasn't going to be enough to hold the skulls still. On their own, they wanted to sink to the lowest point, which was fine, but from walking and moving around, they would all want to be at the lowest point, which means they would eventually start overlapping, and this would make them very awkward to carry. And on top of that, even trying to fit the sword around them was just not going to happen. Aside from the sword's skull being bigger than the rest, there was just no room for 4 skulls. Video game logic strikes again. This meant I was just going to have to carry the sword instead. But the skull strap issue was an easy fix. Once I had the strap sewn on, all I did was grab some thread and needle and sew the hooks in place on the strap. This kept the skulls exactly where I wanted. They had room to wiggle, but they weren't going to slide into each other or get caught around each other. And with that all taken care of, I grabbed my pouches and my hot glue gun and attached those to the belt as well. Up next was the tabard. I laid the armor down on the table and used my hot glue gun to glue the tabard inside the chest, using the nylon straps that I had sewn on in the previous video. And with that on, I figured while I had that there, I would just do the same with the cape and pelt. I brought those over with my skull pins and started laying them all out to glue the skull pins from the inside. Originally, these were all going to be held on with clips so that I could take everything back off when needed, but oh well. And from there, all the accessories were sewn and attached, so I did one final test fit to make sure it all looked good together. Fitment was looking great. Alright, so that test fitment actually went pretty good. A few minor complaints, mostly to do with my own belly, but other than that, it actually looked pretty good in my opinion. Obviously, it's still not done yet, but it's insanely close now. Yeah, first things first, I need to do some color correction on some of the fake leather. Let's see if we can get a better shot. Yeah, so everything here in the stomach is obviously all the same color right now. I wasn't going to go out of my way and start buying tons of fabric of different various shades because that's pretty hard to find. So we have the same exact color for the suspenders, everything on the side, the stomach. I kind of want them all to be a little darker than they already are to begin with, so I'm going to use some really dark browns and kind of just go over it all lightly to darken it up a shade. And then for the stomach, that's going to be kind of maybe almost like a dark red, like almost like it's been bathed in blood and the blood has dried. That's the best way I can put it. I'll be doing that. As for this belt, in game, the rivets are more gold, so I'm going to try and touch those up real quick. Maybe same with this. It'll eventually get worn off, but just stay on top of it. It'll be fine. As for the pelt on the side here, I still need to work with the fur a little bit, especially around the shoulder. It's a little straight right now. I need to kind of comb it out. And then, at least according to the pictures, the farther down it goes, the more gray it gets. So I'll probably comb some of it out, tap it a little bit with some silver or something, and then just kind of keep going down. Maybe I'll be getting just the tips to kind of bring out the highlights of it. And as far as the fabric goes, I might do some kind of staining with the cape. That I don't know yet. It's still a little too clean for the moment. As you can see, it's obviously just regular fabric, no special effects done to it aside from just ripping it up. So probably some coffee stains and that kind of stuff will do the trick. One thing I probably didn't show on camera, so there is some minor sewing done. So see how everything's really tight right here? So I kind of have it like hand sewn in some of these spots to kind of really bunch it up, but this whole clump still kept falling down. So you can see underneath, I glued a piece of nylon stripping to the actual shoulder and then sewn that all to that. Works pretty good, keeps it all there. I was contemplating doing something similar here, but I think that would be a little excessive. So I think that'll be fine. As for the skulls, they're probably not going to get touched. I'm pretty happy with where they are right now. They have their handful of little blood splotches. Nothing I'm going to deal with that too much. Maybe at most, if I can find like a brush on clear coat, like a brush on clear coat to maybe give them a little bit more shine and protection. But other than that, I am completely fine with them. Another thing I did not mention, although you probably saw it by now if you're watching all the videos, is that every piece on here of fabric, be it strap along the chest, the suspenders, the tabard in front, is already permanently glued to the piece. Reason being, simplicity. It's easier to take on and off that way if everything's already attached. Something I like to do is make sure that I can put my costume on by myself. Even my giant Space Marine, which you can see over there, I have a video where I put him on all by myself. That way, if you don't have help, or if someone can't help you, or if you're trying to explain to someone how to do something they don't understand, you can always just do it yourself. It's a lot easier to try and get it on yourself if you can, at least most of it. So that's why I did that. It's going to be a pain to do all these final paint touch-ups because of that, but I think I'll manage. And then once that's done, I'll be done. Hope. There is a couple small things I hope to be able to do. So we have the eyes here. I don't like the LEDs I have inside. They were mostly just meant to give some backlighting on the inside, because if you look at some of the photos there, you can actually kind of see like the face inside lit up red. And then of course the eyes also were lit up. So I figured, if I just do like a light across my forehead, that'll kind of light everything up. It'll give that a little bit of lighting. But you can obviously see the light bar now inside. Not what I was going for, but the only reason I didn't want to... My one idea was to put it on the actual backside of the visor, but you can see into the backside of the visor, and that might be visible from behind, and I didn't want that. So now I have to find a workaround for that. I do like the idea of keeping that open instead of closing it off and then putting it up above so it would shine straight down, but that allows air to flow. Makes it easier for me to breathe, gets the heat out, so I want to keep that. And last but not least, I'm probably going to change this lens out in the eye. When I went to paint it the last time, I was like, let's just take Sharpie and just kind of cover it up. Well, all those etchings and markings makes this now almost virtually impossible to see out of. It got the tint, I can see through the tint, but the individual marks makes it hard to see through. So I have a couple more of these still. I've been running a couple experiments on how to get it. I should probably turn that off. I've been running a couple experiments on how to get it dyed or colored. Not much success with any, but keep trying until I find one that works, and I'll just pop that one out, pop the other one in. I'll be fine. So, only thing left to do was adjust some colors. I started with the tabard, pouches, and straps by giving everything a darker shade of brown. Then I went back to the tabard and started adding more reds. This was done in light splotchy spots, becoming more concentrated the lower it went. I then hit the pelt with some metallic silver, just slightly brushing it so that only the tips of the fur were catching the paint. And before I was done with the pelt, I gave it one more pass with some red paint, to kind of give it the impression of blood and dirt stains. And last but not least, was the cape. I started with some basic coffee stains, using a cup of dark black coffee and randomly hitting the cape and brushing it in the folds of the cape. I did this multiple times, going after pass of coffee stains. I don't have footage, but I ended up going over it one more time after this, doing the same thing, but also adding black and brown acrylic paint to really help bring out some of that dirt and grime. And from there, the costume was done. And there we have it. The Scab Captain's complete. Only thing left to do now, show it off. See you in the next one.
We've got ourselves a new recruit joining the Morning Star. Make sure she gets the appropriate gear needed for the job.
We don't have the supplies. She will have to wait.
No need. I know a man for the job. That Hollencraft fellow. Send him a data slate with all the information needed.
You think he can be trusted? I've heard rumors he's made armor for the Mobian 6.
He has also made armor for the Dark Angels and the Black Templar. It will be fine.
Are you sure?
Just do it.